So, hello everyone. Good morning everybody.
Bonjour tout le monde.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Greetings, everyone.
Jó napot kívánok. Bonjour à toutes et à tous.
Hello, fellow Europeans.
Добрий день.
Bok, hi.
Здраво. Hello.
Labas rytas, europiečiai.
Hello.
Поздравлені.
Hello, everyone. Or as we in Austria would say, Servus.
Ladies and gentlemen, good morning.
We, being the future of the European Union, have come together to have a fruitful discussion. Our concerted effort may reap benefits.
Like C.S. Lewis once said, mere change isn't growth. Growth is the synthesis of change and continuity. And where there is no continuity, there is no growth. And I couldn't agree more. Europe has had a huge development, and we can only thank European Parliament for that. Thank you for keeping all teens encouraged and aware of the world around them. Thank you for projects like this. Thank you, European Parliament. Obrigada.
Tu mi-ai rupt totul, mi-o coasă, cu firoșul de mătasă. Șai-diri, șai-diri, șai-diri-diri-dira.
Thus, we find it crucial to use the vote our ancestors died for and be active citizens in both our national and European elections. After all, 100 voices are louder than one, and 1,000 voices are louder than 100. So let's unite and voice our opinions and together pave the way for a more sustainable future in the EU. Thank you very much, and we look forward to working with you all.
Ich bin Abgeordneter aus Deutschland.
I'm a member from Germany, from Stuttgart, and I have been a member of the European Parliament for some time now. It was 1997 that I joined the European Parliament between two elections. My predecessor was an Attorney General at the court. He's well over 80 now, but still hale and hearty. By training, I'm a lawyer, but I haven't been an acting lawyer. I don't earn any money as a lawyer, let's put it that way. My activity here as a member of the European Parliament is a full-time activity. That's how I've always understood it. Now, the lovely thing about Euroscola is the opportunity to have an exchange. So I'm not going to hold any lengthy or make any lengthy statement. I would prefer to answer your questions.
Hello, I'm Mavina and I'm from Cyprus. And thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. I want to ask, here in Cyprus, we have the maximum average of refugees coming, and Europe doesn't give us enough money to take care of them. What's your opinion?
Die Flüchtlingsproblematik ist eine große.
Refugee problem, big problem.
Ich bin der Meinung, wir müssen den Ländern, die an der Peripherie sind.
To my mind, we really should be helping countries on the periphery. Now, I think that Dublin, in principle, takes the right approach, but I really don't understand why countries on the periphery ever signed up to it. I mean, yes, I think it is right that if people turn up somewhere and say they're a refugee, then their case has to be dealt with where they turn up. So there has to be a determination of whether their request for the status of refugee is founded or not. So if we do recognize people, then we have to share the burden across Europe. And so I've never really understood why this Dublin Agreement came about without that very important qualification. Because you've got people in the middle of the continent who are blithely unaware or unconcerned, and unfortunately you find them saying, well, you know, why should we be bothered by this? This is the problem of the other countries. Even in Germany, you know, a lot of criticism comes from Germany. I mean, my country took in a huge number of refugees. I mean, not only in the last 3 years, but also back in the days of the war in Yugoslavia 25 years ago. And so, you know, people say, why should we take them in? But remember, 2007. Remember, when the Dublin Agreement was signed, it was actually Germany who said, no, 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 we don't want quotas. So even Germany said we don't want European decision on this, we want to decide for ourselves, and that has led to the problem we are now having. And we want other countries to show responsibility here, and we have to talk to them. And we need to make resources available. We also have to tackle the root causes. Look at why people are fleeing to us and make it clear in Europe that we should be investing in Africa in particular. We need to invest in stability. We need to be exporting stability, because if we don't export stability, then we will be importing instability. You know, it's the sheer number of people, and also, well, I mean, we've touched on this issue of terrorism, because of these people who become radicalized. I mean, you know, you can't simply turn a blind eye to that. We have to help these countries.
I'm Aljaž, the representative of Slovenia, and I would like to ask a question. Since Brexit has been such a burning theme for the European Union for the last few months, even couple of years, do you think that the countries, especially the more developed ones, will put forth a referendum for the people to decide if they want to follow the footsteps of the United Kingdom and leave the European Union? And if they leave, what sorts of consequences will that bring to the EU, since there has been a rise in populistic and extremist parties?
Ja, vielen Dank.
Thank you very much. Okay, well, on that last point, populism, yes. I would say that you can see very well what happens when you hold the European Union responsible for everything that is bad, that goes wrong, and, you know, and a country claims the credit for everything that's good. I mean, we've seen where that leads in the United Kingdom. I mean, you know, I think that's a very good example of that. So blame Europe for everything that goes wrong. And I think that you can learn from that. Now, it's a historical quirk that this referendum only came about because a certain individual wanted to cling on to the leadership of his party. I mean, he said, if you vote for me, if I'm Prime Minister, then I will see to it that we have a referendum. So then, you know, he took up office, his coalition partner said, no, hang on a minute. So there wasn't a referendum there, and then everybody thought, well, that's what would happen next time round. Coalition partners would nix it, but then suddenly that government had an absolute majority, no longer had to govern in coalition, and that is why, you know, they kind of blundered into this referendum. But what is also important is that we can see that young people have become politically engaged. Now, from everything that I have seen and heard from people in the know, if as many young people had turned out as old people, then we would have seen a different result. So if as many young people had voted as elderly people, would have been a different result. So the most Googled term the day after the referendum worldwide was European Union. So if the whole process was good for anything, then it was that in many countries, people started to think more about the European Union. And I think that we will see turnout increase, particularly amongst young people. Certainly since Brexit, there are very few countries where you have anybody saying, with any popular support, that they wish to leave the European Union. I mean, in Germany, we've got a populist party, the AfD, which actually said last weekend that if there are no serious reforms, then we want to leave the European Union. But the reforms that that party wishes to see will never come about, because the reforms that they want mean Germany first, and Germany first is not a good idea. France first isn't a good idea either, by the way, nor is Slovenia first. None of those things is a good idea. So that's why we need to talk about all of this. Now, as to whether it would come to a referendum, who knows? Nobody knows. I mean, the Brits seem to have manoeuvred themselves or painted themselves into a corner, and it's very difficult to see any way out now.
My name is George Seriopoulos. I'm coming from Greece. I am attending the Experimental High School of University of Patras. And considering the upcoming European elections, I want to ask a question about the problem that the European Parliament is currently facing. From the European elections in 1979 till the elections in 2014, the turnout rates are gradually decreasing. So, what is the expected turnout for the next European elections in 2019, and why those turnout rates are still decreasing, and how can we help the situation? Thank you.
Well, I'd like to correct you there. At the last election, the turnout, it wasn't much, admittedly, but there was a slight increase in the turnout at the last European elections. If you don't cast your vote, then you're supporting the people that you want to see least in power. Because they benefit most from the fact that you're not casting your vote if they're elected into office. You could say, well, the parties are all shitty, or... but then I would be prepared to engage in a discussion with you on that when you tie everybody with the same brush. But I think you've got to just, get off your backside, go down to the polling station and at least put a blank slip in the ballot boxes if you find all the parties equally bad. But at least you can't accuse someone of being idle or lazy or too lazy to go down to the polling station. That's an important point. It's not just a question of casting your vote. It's getting mobilized. All political parties need a young electorate. Pericles said that citizens for whom general affairs are not important is not a good citizen. In my own country, politics has a detrimental effect on character. Well, I'm very much of the opposite persuasion, the opposite view. Character has a detrimental effect on politics, but I think it's important for you as young people to realize that you can shape politics. Ultimately, you are responsible. And ultimately, every country has the government it deserves. It has the government it deserves. And the responsibility lies fairly and squarely with those who have not cast their vote. So please do participate.
We discussed that stricter legislation and taxes should be implied by the European Union to the governments that do not follow an eco-friendly stand. And then renewable sources like solar panels and wind turbines should be implied and installed to nations. For example, nations with a lot of sun should benefit from solar power, and nations with a lot of wind should benefit from wind energy. And finally, the last question that we had to answer was, what can we do to change people's attitudes? Well, first and foremost, the social media and mass media in our generations play a vital role. So these means should enlighten people to teach them and provide a strong database so that people can know about the effects on the environment. And of course, education from a young age to children, so that they can learn the meaning of recycling, of awareness, and so on and so forth, is essential. So I'd like to finish off with that we should not think about ourselves only. We should be selfless and think about the next generations and to come so that our environment can be saved. Thank you very much.
I want to start by quoting Winston Churchill. He said that all great things are simple and can be expressed in single words. Freedom, justice, honor, duty, mercy, hope. So, I strongly believe that Europe is about people. They make this whole world look like the way it looks, the way we see it today. So, have faith in people. Don't lose your hope in them and in their power, because we are united in diversity. Thank you.
Actually, it would be unfair if we claimed that young Europeans are apathetic. They are passionate about social action. They are volunteering in great numbers. They campaign online. They use the citizen initiative when their rights are abused. The problem is that they have lost faith, or they never had faith in the up-down European political process. They do not believe that the main European political leaders understand the issues that affect them most. It would be quite interesting and efficient if the candidates of the Parliament approach with dialogue or face-to-face conservation the young voters to eavesdrop the suffering or the emotions of young generation, which they will understand as primus guarantees to be denaturated into ideals and visions. Given that the dialectical intervention are the oxygen of the democracy, and based on the biological process of man to breathe out what he inhales, the participation in European elections of the youngsters seems to be quite more satisfactory.
A united school system. This would help students to come into university by making them choose and pick their own subjects in school. This program would also have children take a specific subject in secondary school, in which they will learn about the fundamentals of the European Union, its core values and ideas, which will eventually help them also in participating in the elections, as it was discussed before. And the third issue was an equal and unified environmental policy as to ensure a better future for the European Union. This would mean that old cars that run on diesel and petrol would be banned, but not in a defined period. This would happen over many years, even 10 years, as not to hurt poorer countries which depend on those kinds of cars. And it would also limit the speed limit in all countries of the European Union to prevent emissions, and public transport would be more available to everybody. This means public transport in a lower scale, so that means buses and trains especially. Thank you.
Migration and Integration Committee thinks that country who takes the responsibility of immigrants has to propose the education and work for the immigrants at the parallel time. Why? Because by the work, person has to pay taxes, which will make him equal worker as the country has workers, and it will probably raise the country's economy level, will help for the government to work. And talking about the education, we were discussing the language skills. So by the working, an immigrant has to learn the mother tongue of that country. He has to talk in the language in which country he lives. So yes. And the third proposal, which is kind of extra proposal, is for every country. The Immigration and Integration Committee suggests every country to take the responsibility of objective approach in media towards immigrant crisis. Representing the crisis for the citizens of the EU is very important because of its necessity. We don't have to way back. We have to solve this problem because it's not just their problem, it's our problem too. They're moving to us and we have to do something as the humanitarian unity. Thank you.
First of all, a program of shadowing. Shadowing involves a certain number of interns or students that are, how should I put it, shadowing people at the workplace. They look and they find out many more things about their future jobs or about jobs they are interested in than what they would from simply looking at an application site or from an interview.